I don't know anything about the oranges, just so you know. Success. In 2013, I found myself laying on my living room floor. I'd been there for several hours. And I had been crying so much that I had no tears left in my body. It wasn't the first time it had happened over the short period of time before that, but it was the worst time. I was desperate. I had lost all my money. I was in the beginning of building a business. I didn't know what to do with it yet. I had, similar to what Winston was saying, my friends had stopped calling. My family had no idea what I was doing. They were upset, scared, angry with me. And that moment, in my absolute most dire, desperate time, that was the most successful, that was the beginning of the most successful time in my life, right there. So let me back up a little bit. For almost 20 years, I was a financial services manager in the automotive industry. I made, on an average, over the years, anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 a year. I drove beautiful cars. I wore awesome clothes. I had an incredible shoe collection. I traveled. I had lots of friends. I was the star in the industry. Very well known. Wouldn't matter what city I went to, I could always get another job. I was in control of my life. Behind the scenes, I experienced my second divorce. My second marriage was abusive. I was in debt, far beyond what I ever should have been. And I had no prospects for having or any idea really what it was to have a healthy life. Just before everything kind of went to hell in a handbasket, I had no assets, all kinds of debt, and they offered me a $1 million mortgage. How twisted is that? $1 million mortgage they were going to give me. Because to the outside world, I was a success. The reason that I was laying on my floor that day crying my eyes out is because I'd finally, after a couple of different attempts, left the car business. It was killing me, literally. I went to the doctor because I'd had the experience of getting lost in my own neighborhood, not remembering people's names, not being able to read language. I was having all of these incidences with my brain. So I had a CAT scan, and an MRI, and they told me that I had lesions all over my brain. And the first thing they said is that we think you have MS. And then when that didn't work out, they tried about 5 more diagnoses. What I came to realize, what was brought to me, this was something that I had actually brought on myself. This was my wake-up call. It was time to actually deal with my life. I'm in a survival of sexual, physical, and emotional abuse. I'm a rape survivor, and I'm an abuse survivor, emotional abuse survivor of a relationship. And what do you think I did with all that stuff? I just shoved it down. That's right. I just kept shoving it down and buying more things and going on more vacations and expanding my shoe collection. And I couldn't anymore. So I'm standing in the kitchen one day with a girlfriend of mine, and I said to her, okay, it's happening right now. This thing's happening. She said, what? And I said, well, I'm chopping up vegetables, but I'm not here. I'm like above my body watching myself chop up vegetables. I'm listening to myself talking to you, and it's really weird. And she said, have you ever heard of a Kundalini Awakening? Has anybody heard of this? A few of you? Woo-woo people? A Kundalini Awakening. You can look it up on Google, but let me give you my version. It's when you're going through your life, and you have all of this potential, and there's this purpose that you're supposed to be doing in the world, and you ignore it and chase all the things in the success world that the world thinks, and then eventually you can't do it anymore, so you get slammed on the floor a few times till you wake up. That's kind of like a Kundalini Awakening. So we looked it up on the Google, and there was like a list of 100, you know what I mean? You can, like 100 symptoms of this, or 100 reasons why, or 3, you know, all those things. This was 100 symptoms of a Kundalini Awakening. I had 99 of the symptoms, plus I had brain lesions, so I was pretty sure that was what's happening. So I was not a person that was in that world before. I had just like tiny stepped into the possibility of something existing besides, you know, a table is a table. That maybe we were energy, and this whole God thing might be a good conversation to have at some point. Raised Catholic, totally, like, no, going away from that. So that began my journey of opening up to the spiritual side of life. It took, though, from the time of diagnosis, losing everything. And this is why I'm saying that moment on the floor was the beginning of the success of my life. I am more successful now in my life than I ever have been. And it has nothing to do with whether or not I have money in the bank, my shoe collection, what clothes I wear. This is what it looks like in my life now. Every single day, I get to write or speak or share something with another human being that gives them hope, that sparks an idea for them, that has them understand what success is for them, has them tear down old belief systems, move through their trauma, find something in them that says, you know what, this life is worth living. And it doesn't have to look any way except for the way that I say it's going to look. I determine success. Has nothing to do with my bank account, my shoe collection, or what anybody else thinks of me in the world. My friendships are authentic and pure. The clients that I started with on this journey 7 years ago, we're still in touch regularly. I create circles for women to come together and do healing work. This is what success looks like. So I'm wondering, when you heard about this event, that it was on success, was anybody thinking they weren't successful? You don't have to answer it, raise your hands, anything like that, but I want you to ask yourself, did you consider yourself successful? And after hearing everyone that's spoken so far, can you see that you are? Because sometimes all it is that you showed up. You got out of bed in the morning. Because for some people, that's a major thing. So I want to tell you, you are successful. You're here. You got up today. You're successful. Thank you.